How's everybody doing? Good, good. Been up since about 5 o'clock. I get up every morning now. I don't know why, but I listen to a lot of motivational people speak and a lot of successful people, and they talk about getting up early and doing what you need to do, getting ahead of people instead of waiting for them to get there with you. You beat them, and you don't have to work as hard as they do. But it's been challenging these last 4 weeks I've been doing this, but I'll start off by saying this. I've been a part of a team for my whole life. When I was a young man, my dad always told me, you're Mitchell, you can do anything. I was in the 5th grade. I had 4 brothers and 2 sisters, and we basically lived on a farm where we had to put the posts down into the ground and build our fences. And as a 5th grader, I was rather small. And my dad made me realize at that moment that, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, we can't accomplish all the things that we need to accomplish. Now, I can tell you all that night, I slept. And I slept for a long time because it also taught me that hard work basically pays off. The word team means together everyone achieves more. But if you're going to have a great team, you have to have teamwork to encourage all members with obedient and right knowledge. So as I go through this thing, I'm going to give you different little words and different little sayings I've heard along the way and let you understand how it impacted me throughout my life. The first thing is have the ability to listen. Many people heard about Coach Joe Gibbs, where he would be in meetings and they would be there all the time, where he would sleep at the complex, which means all the other coaches was probably sleeping there too. So me being a person who asks questions all the time, which I'll talk about a little later, I was like, Ernest, why are y'all there all the time? He said, well, man, you wouldn't believe it, but normally every time we speak for an hour to 2 hours, the first thing we come up with is the thing that we end up doing. But what Joe Gibbs believed in was allowing everyone to give their input on it. And I think that's the thing that happens a lot of times with us, and when we get into different teams and different groups, we don't want to listen to everybody. If we're the leader, we think our job is to just go out there and demand and dictate and make people understand what we're doing. And if we're the smaller person, we're afraid to ask questions. But if we were to realize that it's everybody's opportunity to talk and everybody's opportunity to listen, great things begin to happen. So the first thing, make sure you listen and make sure you give people that respect when they come up, because I don't know if we want to sit here and talk about the same thing for the next hour to 4 hours, but if we had the opportunity, I think people, if you're listening to people, if you're paying attention to what they're truly saying, they may be saying something that you're thinking. But if you're only waiting for your chance to begin to talk, your chance to speak, and you're not focusing on what they're saying, you're going to miss out on something. And I'm sure you would want them to sit there and give you that same respect that you gave them. Next thing, check your ego at the door. We all had that opportunity to deal with that at one point. And I'm going to go back to 87. I was the starting quarterback of our football team. I felt that whatever I said, thought, or wanted, I was supposed to get, and it was supposed to go right. And it got to a point one day where they just hired a guy as our grad assistant. And when I was younger, my dad always told me, always respect authority. Well, grad assistant didn't say coach, so I kind of dismissed him as authority. And we got into this argument on the bus. We were coming back from a movie, and the coach told me to sit down and shut up. And telling me to shut up when I was young, a little hothead, was the wrong thing to do. And at that moment, I forgot about team. All I thought about was Brian Mitchell. And I thought about my ego. And I gave this guy some choice words that I felt I wouldn't want somebody to give me. I think that's one thing we can remember too. Just do what you would expect someone to do to you. Well, that night the coach called me, Coach David Culley called and said, you're not playing tomorrow, you're not going to be playing in the game, and if you don't change your attitude, you won't be playing here again. I'm like, yeah, whatever, I go to another school. So I dialed my father's number. Dad, come pick me up, I'm leaving this school. And my dad, being a military guy and understanding, and he knew who I was, he said, what did you do? And I'm like, I can't tell you what I did. Because Coach Stokely had sat in our living room and said, I will make sure your son accomplishes everything he wants to accomplish. If he just does the things that if he do the things that he needs to do, he's going to accomplish everything he wants to accomplish. So my dad said, well, I want you to sit there, son. After he made me, we had this little thing where open conversation. Whenever my dad said open conversation, I could say whatever I said, no matter what words I chose to use, and I didn't get in trouble. Well, I told him the words that I used, and he said, well, you know what, you sit there. I'm going to call the coach, and we're going to decide what we're going to do with you. And at that moment is when David Culley told the coach, if you play Brian Mitchell, I quit. And me sitting there still worried about me, not understanding I'm supposed to be the leader of the team. And if the leader of the team is acting up, the rest of the people on the team are going to start to act up. And the coach told me at that moment, he said, if you're going to be a leader and you're going to be a part of the team, you got to be a leader 24/7, not just when you want to do it. So at that point, I checked my ego and I began to go around and basically give more accolades or compliments to the team and not myself. Because at one point when they said, man, great touchdown, I said, yeah, I did this, I did that. Then all of a sudden it went from, well, hey, Lewis had a great block right there. And as I came through it, Quentin picked up the safety. I began to make sure I gave that respect to the other guys because I'm checking the ego. He told me the one word that Coach Cully said, the little saying, he said, lower yourself and your team will elevate you. And I think that right there worked for me because if I didn't do those things, I wouldn't be standing here right now talking to you all, to be totally honest with you. And then delegation. I've been reading this book. I'm going to show you the book. And when you look at it, you're going to think, oh, my kids probably have that book. It's called Stone Soup. Has anybody ever read this book? It is the simplest reading I ever read in my life, but the most impactful thing. And another book I read was called Who Moved My Cheese. I love those books because it just gets to the point. Stone Soup starts off, you have these 3 monks walking around, and they want to build this, they want to make some soup because this little community, people don't deal with each other, they don't trust anybody, and they go in and they take this pot. And the little girls watch them and say, what are y'all doing? Nobody else was speaking to them, but the little girl spoke to them. And they would say, we're making soup. We're making stone soup. They put the 3 stones in the pot, and they start, get some water, and they start cooking. It's not soup. You're boiling rocks. But then as people begin to see it, and certain people knew that they had carrots, and other people had onions, and everybody began to come together, by the end of the story, you got everyone sitting at a table with a feast because everyone knew what they did the best. And they began to try to go out there and do that. So as a young man, my mother and father basically were the end of that story, where the feast was always at my house. And I was like, Mom, why y'all always cook so much food? We had 7 kids. That's a lot of food to cook anyway. But my mom cooked as if she was cooking for 40, 50 people daily. And when we went out to our gardens and with the fish, we always gave stuff to people. And a little old saying about it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to raise the whole village, to be totally honest with you. And my mom and dad basically made me recognize and realize that as a young age. So at this point, whenever I get involved with anything, I don't care what the group is, what the team is, I'm always trying to lift people, help people, give them something to make their journey easier and also make them understand that I believe in you. So as you're working with a team and you're going through it, you make sure whatever you do well, you say it. You make sure people understand it. And if you are the person who's making the decisions, you can't sit there and make that stay to the side. You got to praise them, make them feel good about it. A lot of people are not as talkative. I wasn't talkative when I was young. I was a guy who sat in class, didn't say a word. I did my work, but I didn't want to say much. I didn't want to make a sudden movement because I felt the teacher was going to call on me. Then I hit the 9th grade, and I had a teacher who was my cousin, Miss Carolyn Brown. I'm sitting down on my hands because I don't want you to call me to say anything about Edgar Allan Poe. I'm not trying to quote the Raven. Never, ever. I didn't want to do it, not never more. So when I sat there and she said, well, great job, Brian. You decided you're going to do the Raven at the little, we had a function at school where we had to quote these poems. And she chose me to do the Raven. I'm like, I don't want to do that. She said, well, you're going to do it, or you're talking back. No, I'm not talking back because she had direct line to my father. But she knew I was the quarterback of the football team. And whenever I did something, everybody else were willing to try it. They wanted to follow what I did. So Miss Brown understood to get others to do it, I must make Brian do it. And that began to work for me. All right, show respect. There are people that may not be as put together as some of us. They may not be as open and honest as some of the people are. They may just be introverted. They may be people that don't like to speak up about the ideas. But a lot of times what's been proven is that the person who is the most introverted and doesn't say the most, they probably are critical thinkers. But if you can try and be respectful to them and show them that you care, they come out that shell and they start to talk a little bit more. As a team, if you have this table here and 3 of you don't ever say anything, and just the other 5 over there always making the decisions. But they may have some quality things. The ideas that come out doesn't have to be your idea. It needs to be the idea of the team. And what I've always learned is that when we come up with an idea, if we are going to be respectful, open, and honest, and have discussions about it, and as I said earlier, pay attention and listen to people, that one idea that starts, it may end up being the idea at the end, but it may have different little pieces to it. Some was taken off, some was put on. And then at the end of the group, instead of saying I, instead of saying your, his, hers, you can say our. And when you're involved with the team and you say our success, everybody feels good about it. Everybody feels like they had a part of it. You know, I look at what's happening right in Loudoun County, and I remember getting here, and it was always Fairfax. And then Loudoun County started to creep. And when I started looking around this country, richest county, fastest growing, education, everything is working. So it means you all are you're doing a lot of stuff I'm already talking about, because I love seeing that when I go around, I go all over this place, all over this country. I've been in Napa Valley, and I'm looking at the money floating around there. I'm like, wow, Loudoun County got more money per capita here. You look Beverly Hills, you see them rolling around, it's still Loudoun County is on top. It makes you realize that when you find things, if you think about it, most people, you say Loudoun County around the country, they go, where? They don't know. Because you have something, and you have to keep pushing it out. And if everybody keeps doing the things they've been doing, it's going to get where it needs to go. Question one another. All right? I was that guy where if I know your answer was right, I still ask, why? Because I want you to prove it to me. And a lot of people in class would never ask the question, why? They were afraid. And by me asking that question, and the teacher had to really go do it and do it from start to finish, now you get a better understanding of how to, solve this problem. I look at the little deal with Antonio Brown now leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers, and people may say he was selfish, but you know what? That's a bigger problem going on in Pittsburgh right now than people really understand. You have 2 of your best players end up leaving, and they don't want to have anything to do with the team. You hear people complaining about Ben Roethlisberger, and you hear the general manager comes out and say, well, Ben is a man dealing with 52 kids. What man wants to be called a kid? So that deal is bigger than Antonio Brown. It's what's going on in that locker room. But Antonio Brown has the wherewithal and has the oomph to be able to say something, leave there and get another job, $50-something million. Ooh, I wish I was still playing. I wish I was still playing. But he leaves. But I think what happens is other people on that football team are going to realize that we need to come together, because either you're going to come together as a total team or that thing is going to fall apart. When I thought about successful organizations, I thought about organizations that did it the right way. The Steelers were always one of those organizations. But over the last 2 to 3 years, it's been As the World Turns, Young and the Restless, Guiding Light, All My Children. That's the stories. I used to watch those things when I was younger too with my mom. But it's become all of that. Why? Because for some reason, they forgot about team and teamwork, and people started putting one person on a pedestal. When that general manager came out and said, Ben is a man dealing with boys, you know what he just did? He just told them he's above you, okay? And what does that do for all professional athletes, testosterone-driven men? You just made me say, okay, well, I'm going to show you that I'm the man. So now you got 52 other guys that are doing their own thing, trying to make it happen, and the Steelers have gone from being this team that's always there to now the team that we talk about more as a soap opera. It's keeping up with the Kardashians. Now it's keeping up with the Steelers. That's the way it's been going for them. Coach Joe Gibbs, he was that guy that when I first got here, and he said, man, every time I throw in something, you ask me why. I say, Coach, because I want to know why. Because there may be an opportunity one day where that question why is going to give me a chance to help this football team. And if anybody around here been here long enough, some of y'all look too young to be around in 1990. Laugh at that. That was funny. So 1990, we were playing a game against the Philadelphia Eagles called the body bag game. They hurt 9 people. And in that game, I happened to be backing up 5 of the 9 people that got hurt. The 2 quarterbacks, had a running back, and also 2 punt returners. All of them got hurt, so I'm now in the game at quarterback. And we go down and we score a touchdown, and we come to the sideline, and Coach Gibbs like, man, you did some great stuff out there. did you feel nervous at all? I said, Coach, I didn't feel nervous because I kept asking you why all those times. So everything that I saw, those whys that I asked showed me. And we were able to go down on the football field. And many people talking about, well, Brian should be playing quarterback. No. Reggie White, Jerome Brown, Clyde Simmons. Nah, I don't want to see that problem. Didn't want to do it at all. And the next thing is participation. You know, that's the thing about when I got into it a little bit earlier about everybody in the group has to participate. We can't have 53 people when only 45 are doing their job. You know, you can't have 5 people or 6 people. Or in hockey, you got the goalies and they say 5-on-5, but it's really 6-on-6. Everybody's not doing their job. When I watch the Capitals a lot, I watch where early on when Ovi was scoring a lot of goals, they weren't winning a lot. I saw everybody doing this. You know, they were just like us. Alexander Ovechkin is a show. He's unbelievable. And if you start to just watch what he's doing, you're not helping the team. So if you have a person leading your group that may be a leader, and they're that star like Alex, and a lot of people look up to him, and they influence a lot of people, and you just sit back and look, you're not helping your team. So what you have to do is start to participate and start to ask questions and start to say, look, I can do this and I can do that. And so all of a sudden now when I'm the leader and I say, well, we need to make sure somebody's going to fly out to Napa Valley and hang out to learn what they're doing out there. Anybody going to raise their hand to go out there? But you may know somebody who's very good at sitting there and talking with people face to face and trying to influence them and get the information that you need from them. So I can pick you, but if you never say anything, I don't know that. So a lot of times we go, well, it's just me, I don't like to say anything. But they never count me in on anything. Well, if you're not being counted in, you're not trying to kick the door down and be in. You, as a person on a team that's not the actual leader or not the most popular guy, it's your responsibility as much as anybody else to sit there and make sure that they understand what you're capable of doing. So, and when I first got to the Washington Redskins, when I was going through my draft process, they go, well, you know, quarterback in the NFL, you know, you're not as tall. I said, look, I don't care where I play. I just want to help the team. And I said it over and over again. And then I get drafted by the Redskins, and they say, well, the way you're going to make this team is returning kicks and punts. I said, I want to help the team, but I didn't say I want to return kicks and punts. Because kicks and punts is looking in the air as these guys come to tackle you. So what happens at that point? Now I have to figure out a way to make sure I know that I could depend on those 10 guys blocking for me. So fast forward, we go through 10 years of me being in Washington, so I go to Philadelphia, and I'm asked a question by John Harbaugh. He says, what do you like to do on the football field? What type of blocking schemes do you want, and how do you like to practice? I say, Coach, don't worry about it. Just let them kick the ball, and I will run. And I say, before the end of this week, we'll have all our stuff down. So what I did, I catch the ball, and we always talk about get your butt out the hole. So when you're blocking, you get your butt out the hole. Well, we have a lot of guys that practice, they're just loafing around. So what I learned, at the point now I'm 5'10 and a half, I weigh 221 pounds, I run a 4.41, I run right over my guy. And the guy jumps up, man, what are you doing? I say, if you're in a hole in the game, I'm going to run over you there too. So the next time I come through there, that guy now, he's all up out the hole. And then when we look at it, all of a sudden in the film, the whole football team is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. So I went out, and we all participated, but I'm going to show you how we're going to participate when the game comes around. And all of a sudden, we played that game that weekend, and Coach is watching the film, and he's laughing because he said, wow. It was exactly what we did in the game because we figured out a way, we did it one way, and everybody did their job. So we had success in that part. And then rational debate is another one. Rational debate is basically debating and being respectful of each other. You know, if you say something, I'm not going to say, oh, that's stupid. That never works in anything. I had a guy call onto my radio show one time, and he said, I'm not going to say that you're a coward, but I said, stop. He said, what do you mean? I said, the next thing you say will not be heard because I'm dealing with that. I'm not saying you're a coward part. I say, if you would have started the statement like I didn't understand why you did something, then I'm listening to everything you say because now I want to explain. And it's the same thing in a team setting. When someone says or does something, shouldn't be snickering and giggling and laughing at them, because now you may shut them down that they don't want to help. And in the long run, the whole object is to make sure that the team succeeds, not that my point get across, and not that I go out there and embarrass somebody. So that the same way that that guy was starting off that question that way, when someone says something that you don't believe in, it's easier to say, you know what, some of the things you said I like, but what if we were to try this? You just, that's criticize, critique, but you did it in a constructive manner to where they're going to listen. Now other people start talking and you could debate, and as I said earlier, that same idea now becomes everybody's idea instead of it just trying to be yours, or two people get into a problem. Have you ever noticed that we're involved with something and it's a person I don't like, or you don't like that person or whatever, and now that's who it ends up being, you two. It comes down to what you all are going to do. And do you sit there with your ego, as I said, check at the door, or you sit there so prideful that you're not going to forget that we're trying to make this team be successful and grow? Are you going to argue with the person just because you don't like them? It happens all the time. And I say my kids, I got 3 daughters that live at home and a son who's off, but whenever they get together, they always arguing about something. But they want the same things. I'm like, if y'all just sit back and listen and work with each other, you can get past all of that. But it's the 24-year-old who wants to dictate everything to everybody, my daughter, and my 19-year-old is not having it, and the 16-year-old, she's like, man, please. It's going to happen my way because I have daddy's ear. She does. But if they were to just sit there, because what I'm going to do is walk in and ask questions, and then I'm going to start saying you're wrong and you're wrong. All 3 of y'all wrong. But if you want to get it done, I'm going to leave out this room. If y'all don't get it done, then I'm going to just make sure everybody don't get anything that they want. I still do it. They're 24 years old, and I still treat her the same way. Still my baby, and I'm going to still dictate what happens in my house. So make sure that teamwork works. And then set the right environment. That's the whole thing. When we get there and we're having a meeting, you want everybody to be relaxed, comfortable, or whatever. So whoever that committee is to bring in the refreshments, make sure it's a nice refreshments. Now, if you have a group that can't have a glass of wine and stay on an even keel, you don't want any alcohol at the meeting. You might just want to have sparkling, like some type of sparkling or cider or something like that without any alcohol in it. But it's just knowing what your group is and make sure everybody's comfortable, where they're willing to talk and willing to get all the ideas out so everything can work out. You don't want to have people there feeling uncomfortable, which agitates people, and now all of a sudden it's about them being agitated. Oh, this seat is not comfortable. Oh, we don't have the right refreshments. And you think about all that, now you're losing time on trying to get to the goal of what you want to get done. So when I look at that, I kind of look at it in this way. In the beginning of the week or the beginning of training camp, it's torture. They want us to be in the most uncomfortable position there is. Because what you're trying to find out is those who can handle that and still move forward. As it gets closer to the season, they begin to settle things down a little bit. Because now we have to teach you something because you made it through, like what's called basic training for the military. They make it as difficult as they possibly can for that. So when you get there, now I need to educate you. I need to teach you. So I want you to be more relaxed, more comfortable at that point. And you begin to learn more, because when I send you out to go take care of this country, I want you to know what you're doing. So as we get closer and closer to a game in football, Monday and Tuesday, we don't do much. Wednesday, tough. Thursday, tough. Friday is the easiest day you're going to find until Saturday comes along, where we're dressed just like I am, or we could be on jeans and we're walking through. It's the most, and that day is when coaches are really trying to work on what's here. And everybody can get it because there's nobody trying to hit you, nobody that you have to be worried about, none of that at all. So now you focus solely on the opponent that we have this weekend. That opponent will be whoever it is, the Giants, the Eagles, or whoever. You focus on them instead of now you're still battling each other. So when you make that the environment one that you can have success in, that's the main thing. It's relaxed, it's calm, and you can have success at it. And I'll close by just saying this. If you go out there with a collaborative spirit and you realize that everything that you do is about accomplishing and trying to reach a goal, and it's not about you, it's not about trying to shun somebody else, it's about the goal that we all reach. I met people from Fauquier County, I think it was, I met earlier. If you want to take yours to everybody in that same Chamber of Commerce have to be focused on one thing, making that county as good as they possibly can be, not making me. And that's the thing that I ran into as a young kid where I wanted to be, and I didn't want to just be number one on the football field, I wanted to be number one in everybody's heart. So I always tried to do the Brian Mitchell thing instead of doing the Raging Cajun thing. When I got to Washington, I was lucky enough to come on a team that had a bunch of veteran guys who had won a Super Bowl. But I was smart enough to listen to those guys when they told me everybody has to do their jobs. I'm looking at some of the guys in practice going, that guy is not very athletic. But when I watch him in a football game, everything that guy did, he did it perfectly. He didn't make mistakes, and the coach depended on him. So he was handling. Coach had delegated him to be that blocking guy. He didn't catch passes, but he was the best blocker we could possibly have. And then I went on to Philadelphia, and I found out with Andy Reid. Andy Reid was a guy who came in, and he didn't say, this is my team. You know, coaches like to say, this is my team. Andy Reid went around, and he watched, and he saw who the guys were going to in the locker room. And he had a little delegation of 10 people to where those 10 guys helped him run that football team. And we had a lot of success there. And then what I found out when teamwork doesn't work, my last year in New York, everybody was on their own. You know, they had already said at the beginning of the year that they were going to fire Jim Fossil. And you get in the locker room, you can see the little cliques and the little faction, and everything was going a different way. And I had come from 13 years of watching it done the right way. So I tried to start telling guys, we need to do this, we need to do that. Some people were coming along, while others, nah, we don't want that. And that team, we won 3 games that year. And that's when I knew it was over. Because as a man I was now 35 years old. And I thought in those 35 years, I'd seen a lot and I learned a lot. And I won a Super Bowl. Well, we won a Super Bowl. Change that up. We won a Super Bowl. My team helped me be able to go to a Pro Bowl. You know, me and my wife raised a great group of kids. But all of those things I did, I had somebody along the way to help me. You know, when I begin to start getting ready to talk about a speech or talk about something with people, I don't do it by myself. I have people I call on and say, how should I do this or how should I do that? When Simon gets ready for this, I'm sure he has other people he can deal with. But we all have to depend on somebody. We can't do anything by ourselves. You know, we can mess up by ourselves, I guarantee you that. But if we want to be successful, which normally everything that you're going to be successful at, it's a group, it's a team, it's an organization. We have to make sure that we're going to give those people around us the opportunity to help us and also give them the respect so they understand that they are a part of it. That's why I'll close out by saying this. When I was talking to my wife one day, I said a strong couple has 2 strong individuals. And so when I started looking at she said, well, what you think about on the football team? I say, the last guy on the bench needs to be as strong as some of their strong guys on their team. She said, well, how do you get there? I say, because I don't ever stop from helping someone. When I was young, Ernest Biner took me under his wing and taught me how to be a professional athlete. I came here able to run a football, but I wasn't a professional athlete. I didn't study on my own, but when he told me you need to be watching film, you need to be studying, I took that and I taught James Strash. And then James Strash taught somebody else. When you watch TV every day, that little commercial pops up where the guy opens the door, and then that lady that he walked through the door, she went to help somebody else. If we just start helping people out, we do that and bring it more centrally focused on the little groups that we have, success is right there. We'll get there, we'll get wherever we want. Thank you all for giving me some time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Does look like a book that we had when we were in elementary school, huh?
Are you autographing that too?
No, that's mine.
That's yours, right.
I have to read this once a week. Keep me focused.
Good. So now, thank you. I'm going to call you when I need help, if that's all right.
Yeah, cool.
Good.
I'm with that.
So, very good. Thank you so much, Brian.
Right.
Can I get you a cup of coffee, tea?
Coffee be fine.
Yeah. Can we get a cup of coffee, please?
We won't be up here now. We're down there.
Could we have a cup of coffee, please? All right. So let's start with some questions. I'm sure you're itching to ask questions. And I have a couple of people I would like to actually focus in on who have some insights into teamwork themselves. The first person I'd like to ask, and as I do this, please feel free to silently auction over there. and we want to get those bids up. So I'm going to try and find Anna Vanderlak, who I think I see here, who is the Director of Hope for Warriors, and I believe you have some insights into teamwork and what you heard Brian say. So let's get you a microphone. I'm sorry.
Oh, I get it. See how I
It's attached to my chest, so that would be embarrassing. It might block me.
Right. Well, thank you.